Hi guys, it's attorney Terri S. Herron, and I'm coming to you today to talk about preparation for divorces. I know I have several videos on preparing for a divorce, but some more things that are going to help this process, which is a hard process to go through emotionally, but which is going to help this process to be easier for you, okay? And I don't use easier lightly. I don't use that term lightly because this process is one of the most emotional processes that you may ever go through. So let's kind of get into it. Some things that are going to make it easier procedurally. All right, so let's get into it. One of the things I want you to do when preparing for a divorce is to take all of your personal, whether it's financial statements and things of that nature. I want you to gather those things around the house, from around the house, and either put those things in a safe deposit box, or if you work where you have your own office and you can lock it up in your own office, I want you to begin to do those things. Take all of your financial documents. Now, I'm not saying that these documents are not going to end up in court anyway, but you want to take all of those things, all of the sensitive things where your spouse may go and open up a line of credit in your name once they find out that you're filing for a divorce. Things that are going to make it easier for you, okay? This makes it so much easier. You don't want the spouse to open up a line of credit in your name. You don't want the spouse calling around using passwords to open up any other things in your name, okay? So this is going to make it a lot easier for you. And while you're at it, you need to be changing your password on whether you have an email address together or if you have your own email address. A lot of times, it's 2018, so a lot of times we're auto-saving these things on computers that we have laying around the house. So go ahead and change your password. Go ahead and create a new email address if you have an email address with your spouse, because this is going to be critical. Listen, I don't care if this is even an uncontested divorce that you're about to go through. This person is somebody that you're divorcing, and you don't know who this person really is until you go through the divorce process. So if this person was the nicest person, the best wife, the best husband, would never do this to you in the 20 years that you've known him or her, I'm here to tell you, you may see a different person. So go ahead, take my advice, change your passwords, gather your sensitive documents that are around the house, put them in a safe deposit box, or put them somewhere in your office where your spouse doesn't have access to those things. While you're at it, if you have cloud accounts, go ahead and disconnect those cloud accounts so your information is not floating everywhere. Listen, it's kind of hard to even know where our information is going when it goes into the cloud. But I'm going to give you an example as to why you definitely want to make sure that these cloud accounts are disconnected, okay? I had a client, and very sensitive information, but there was a sex tape that was out there, ended up being on the child's iPad, and you know, it shouldn't be out there. It shouldn't be a sex tape if you're married, but at the same time, these are things that happen, and that could be used as evidence against you. I've had people to where they were able to gain a whole bunch of information from the other side because you guys are not disconnecting these cloud accounts. Do what you need to do for your information, for your photos, for things not to go into the cloud. Because even if your spouse is disconnected from something, you never know. When you have these family accounts and your child has a phone or an iPad or anything like that, that information could end up there, okay? So definitely disconnect the cloud accounts, change your passwords, take your sensitive information, your documents, and store it somewhere privately, okay? All right, also, very important, if you have joint accounts with your spouse, it's time to find your own account. Listen, you don't want to have a joint account with someone and you're planning on divorcing them, or you guys go through a separation phase and you've moved out of the home, but you still have your direct deposit going into the checking account, and you go to pay your rent at your new place, and guess what? Your direct deposit hit, your spouse beat you to the punch, and got all the money out of the account. That happens more often than you would think. So you definitely want to make sure that you either get a new account and make sure that your direct deposits are going into your personal account that's not along with your spouse. You want to do that. All right, and also the same thing for credit cards. Now is the time to lower those credit card available balances. You don't want to have a line of credit for a credit card, $25,000 floating out there, and your spouse decides to go out and run up $25,000 in bills. You don't want to do that. So make sure that you're lowering those balances, okay? All right, in the meantime, whether you think it's separate property, whether you think it's marital property, do not do a quick claim deed, to the home. Don't start sending money overseas. Don't start doing any of that, okay? Don't start giving things away and putting items in your mom's name or, your new girlfriend's name. Don't do that. It's 2018. There is too much of a paper trail, and it will look like you were hiding assets if you start to do that, okay? So definitely don't do that. All right, so in the meantime, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we do what we call a domestic relations financial affidavit. And that's something that we can send out to you. But we want to make sure that we find out what your budget is. Create a budget. How much are you making? How much is your income versus what your expenses are going to be? You guys are going to be in two separate households. And with you being in two separate households, if you were on one income, that income is not going to cover both households. So you want to start also cutting down on some of the expenses that you had. There's some luxury items that you were able to do because you guys had one household to maintain. Now they're two households. Let's get rid of some of those luxury items. For some of my people that are seeking alimony, we definitely need to get rid of some of those luxury items. It doesn't make sense to go into court asking for a certain amount of alimony, saying that you can't live or you're not able to support yourself, but then we have things that, you go out during the middle of the divorce and actually purchase a new Mercedes-Benz. Listen, you have to be mindful of these things, okay? So don't go creating expenses that don't need to be created, and also the expenses that you can get rid of. Start getting rid of those things, okay? All right, listen, I know divorce and separation, it can be hard. It can be hard on you. It can be hard on the children. And a lot of times we have spouses that's making it hard for the other spouse to see the children. And sometimes that's not the situation. Sometimes you've just disappeared and doing your own thing and you're not staying active in the children's lives. Listen, you can't expect to not be active in the children's lives and still ask for custody. Listen, still be active in your children's lives. Still go to the baseball games, the basketball games, the cheerleading meets. Still attend those things. Still stay in contact with the teachers. If your child is in counseling, make sure you're staying in contact. Make sure you're being an active part of your child's life, because it does make a difference when it comes to these child custody issues. You can't disappear for 6 months or be separated for 6 months and say, well, listen, I didn't want to see my children because she was making it difficult for me to see my children. No, you have to stay an active part of your children's lives. You can't go to court asking for custody and you guys have been separated a year and you've not made any effort to see your children. We have to be real, okay? So you kind of have to act like the role that you want. So if you want to have primary custody, you kind of have to act that role. Doctor's visits, you need to be at the doctor's visits. You need to be taking the children to the doctor's visits if you can. If you want to do the field trips when the children are going on field trips. These are some things that we can do to be an active part of our children's lives, okay? All right, so speaking of staying an active part of our children's lives, if you're already separated, and if you've left the children with mom, or mom, if you've left the children with dad, you definitely want to make sure that you put together some kind of calendar to show when you're seeing the children. This is very important if you go into court. and you got one spouse that's saying, oh, he barely saw the children. He saw the children 2 times last month, or he only saw the children 4 times last month. Or, if you're arguing that, listen, I've seen the children 50% of the time, that's why I want, equal parenting time. It makes a difference to be able to show the judge how much time, even after the separation, that the children have spent with you. So make sure you're keeping a calendar. That could be just a blank calendar. To make it easier, you can do a Google Calendar. Print out a blank Google Calendar, and you can highlight when you see the children in yellow, and when mom sees the children or the other person sees the children in another color. It makes it easier for the judge to ascertain who's been seeing the children, who's really been acting as the primary custodial without really the title, okay? All right, so if you are a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, if you're the homemaker, and in the meantime, you've really not been making any money, now is the time to get that resume together. Yes, even if you qualify for alimony, you at least want to show the judge that you've been making an effort to go out and gain some employment. You want to at least show the judge that you've gone out to even, maybe enroll in a course or two so that you can go back into the workforce. These things are very important. In the state of Georgia, we talked about in our alimony video, alimony is based on need, is based on the other person's ability to pay, but also you have to look at some of the things that the judge, in addition to that, will be looking at. So, you can't just run into court and say, I have no way of getting a job. You want to make sure that you've actually shown the judge that, listen, I've tried to get a job. I've updated my resume. I've done what I needed to do, okay? So it's very important that you do that. Also, don't sign any legal documents. Don't sign a settlement agreement. Don't sign anything without consulting with an attorney. I know we're in the age of Google, and you guys like to go out to Google and research things, and half the time you're looking at things that don't even apply to your own state. Big mistake, okay? I'll give you an example. I've had people come to me after the fact when they've signed a settlement agreement, and they've actually signed up to pay for college, and they didn't have to do that at all. I've seen settlement agreements where people are paying child support until the age of 25. That's not Georgia law, but if you sign off on that as part of your settlement agreement, then guess what? That's what the judge is going to enforce. Recently, I had someone who actually was married for 15 years and signed off to pay 15 years of alimony. The judge wouldn't have ordered him to pay 15 years of alimony. So that's why it's very important that you don't try to do this on your own. I always tell people, don't go into anybody's court without an attorney, but especially if the other side has an attorney, you need to hire an attorney, okay? One of the things you can do to make this process a lot better is, if you feel like your spouse is open to talking about divorce, talk to them about the divorce process. Talk to them about what you guys are willing to agree to. You can open up that line of communication and then consult with an attorney and then come back, and if you guys have an agreement, then great. If you guys have a partial agreement, then great. But it's going to help you when it comes to attorney's fees if you guys have actually limited some of the issues that you have to take before the judge. There are so many tips, so many other things, so many strategic things that you need to be doing and preparing for a divorce. I have so many videos as it relates to preparing for a divorce, also on the website, terriherronlaw.com. You can go there. We have our blog there where we give a lot of tips as it relates to divorce. So go there, get some information, give us a call, set up an appointment if you need to. I hope this information was helpful. As always, leave your comments, leave your questions down below, and I would love to be able to answer some of your questions or at least address some of your questions in future videos. I'm attorney Terri S. Herron, your local family law attorney, and I enjoy answering these questions for you. I enjoy doing these videos for you. So definitely leave those questions, leave your comments. Let me know what are some of the ways that you would like to, or some of the things that you've done to prepare for divorce if you've already gone through a divorce before. Leave that information below for other people. It would be so much helpful for other people as well. Have a great day.